Welcome to Josh's House of Nerd podcast.
Hello, Nerd Nation. I'm Josh, and I welcome you to our podcast. Grab a cold evergreen goblet of blue milk and make yourself comfortable here at my House of Nerd. Now, for tonight's movie. Today on the podcast, we are on the topic for the month, which is movies that are underwater, or mostly underwater. And tonight's movie is Crit's Pick, the 2017 American romantic fantasy directed by Guillermo del Toro, starring Sally Hawkins, Michael Shannon, Richard Jenkins, Doug Jones, Octavia Spencer, Michael Stahlberg, and David Hewitt, for those of you who love Stargate Atlantis like I do. The story is set during the early 1960s Cold War era and involves a mute custodian who works at a high-security government lab where she encounters an amphibian humanoid and falls in love with him and helps him to escape with the help of her friend Octavia Spencer. It won Best Picture at the Academy Awards and only the second fantasy movie to do so following Lord of the Rings, Return of the King. Let's talk about that movie, guys. What did you guys think of The Shape of Water?
I didn't realize Return of the King was the only other one to win. That's interesting.
Only other fantasy movie to win at the Academy Awards, yeah.
Huh.
And then Shape of Water actually was the next one a couple years later. I was actually a little blown away by that too. I thought there would probably been more than that, but no.
I mean, more than a couple years, because this came out in what? 2018?
2017.
2017.
Yep,
more than a couple years, because this...
Yeah. Which I thought it was actually later than that, closer to, I thought it was maybe more like 2019, but it's been talked about a lot. So maybe it's just because it was still kind of being talked about and things like that. Had you guys seen this movie before?
No, I had not.
I had seen it once.
Had you seen this one? You had? Okay. All right. This is my first watch as well. I'd wanted to see it. I actually started it a couple of times, but for some reason I kept getting sidetracked. It wasn't that I didn't like it. I actually did like it a lot. I started watching it a couple times. I'd made it to, just a little bit after the introduction of the movie, and then I would get pulled away and and then never not go back again for some reason, and then try to start over again. But this time I'm glad I did. This is a movie that I thought was, I'll just go right into my impressions of it.
Especially for a first time watch.
Yeah. I really, really, really enjoyed this movie. I liked it way more than I thought I was going to. I thought the set design was fantastic. One of the things that just kind of sucked me into this movie of watching it is just the atmosphere. I love that kind of 1960s feel. I love the whole atmosphere he set with that, of being in that era, Cold War, Russians, almost like James Bond type stuff going on. And yet, here's this, this wonderful, cleaning lady, maintenance lady that is, in the middle of it all. And I think one of the wonderful things I like about this movie is, it's in the backdrop of fantasy, and yet the way I perceived this movie was, this is a movie about outcasts. It's a movie about people maybe who don't necessarily, maybe at that time, maybe fit in. They should have fit in, but they don't, with the politics or whatever of that era.
And they weren't allowed. Yeah.
Or they weren't allowed. That's a good way to put it. And how it just shows how all these people are so wonderful, and how they need love and acceptance as much as anybody else does. And I thought that was a wonderful message that came from this movie, with this backdrop of fantasy. And as you can see, I very much enjoyed this movie, and I just love all of the messages going on in it, and I really loved it. I don't know who this Sally Hawkins is. I've never seen her before.
You've never watched Paddington?
Well, I have. I've actually seen both of them, and I just realized she was in it. I just looked into the other movies she did. I don't remember what character she played in Paddington, even though
she's the mom.
Is she the mom? Okay,
yep.
I had a feeling she was the mom.
Yep.
Which I do like both those Paddington movies. Those are movies I liked better than I thought I was going to. Anyways, but that was my take with her. She's a wonderful actress.
Mm-hmm.
And but I think the acting in this movie was wonderful. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so that's kind of my quick take on, kind of overall the story, and we can definitely go into more of it. But that's my first kind of, impression, kind of just real quick in a nutshell.
So mine was I really enjoyed it. It brought me back to when I was in high school and watching Pan's Labyrinth for the first time. So I watched
Pan's Labyrinth.
I watched Pan's Labyrinth. I was either a sophomore. No, I was a senior by that time.
That's quite a contrast, actually. You're comparing it to Pan's Labyrinth, because
I'm not comparing it to Pan's Labyrinth. What I'm saying is I'm comparing how I felt about it and how I felt watching it to how I felt when I was watching Pan's Labyrinth. That's what I'm comparing it to. I'm not saying they're the same. Yeah, that they're similar. That there's similarities or something like that. It's like it had the same feel. It had the same. And I attribute that a lot to Guillermo del Toro's vision. And just the phenomenal set design that was present in both films. So it really did a good job in bringing me back. Am I ever going to watch it again? I don't know. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed Guillermo del Toro's movies for the most part. Mm-hmm. But I don't know that it gripped me so hard that I was like, oh yeah, I need to rewatch it. Or
John, I don't feel like I have to rewatch this either. I thoroughly enjoyed it, but I don't feel like I'll ever go back and watch it unless somebody else is watching it.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it. But I really enjoyed it. Like I said, I enjoy a lot of his films. I have yet to see his latest, Pinocchio, so I'm interested.
I've heard good things.
Same here. I mean, especially for a Netflix film. So
I'm actually really excited to see it.
So I'm interested in seeing it. There was some interesting, like, I don't know. It was a little interesting. I really liked your point on the fact that we had these outcasts kind of coming together, because then you have you have her who's mute, you have him who's a fish man, you've got the black lady in 1960, Octavia Spencer's character, and then you've got the gay dad, next door neighbor.
Well, yeah, I almost took him as like a father. I almost like they were like father and daughter, but I mean, yeah, they were just neighbors, really.
Yeah, exactly. So it's very interesting. I think it was really, I don't know, it was a powerful setup of like, look at all of these fighting against, stereotypes, fighting against a world that wants to put them into a box or erase them or get rid of them. And it's very interesting because I think Sally Hawkins' character is the one that's kind of in both worlds, to where she's like, yeah, she's an outcast, she's mute, but at the same time, like, she's not gay in 1960 or black in 1960 or a fish woman yet until the end, which I want to talk about the end.
But she's definitely an outcast.
But she's definitely outcast.
She's treated as a lesser person because she can't speak. Yeah.
I don't want to quibble, but I don't think outcast is the right term, because outcast would mean that they are not allowed to participate in society at all. I think more that they were. I think they're more othered.
Yeah, I like that.
So they're allowed to participate, but they're not allowed to have any power.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Grant.
Okay.
That's a better. That's actually a better term. I
was thinking like outcast. I was trying to figure out why that was bugging me a little bit, and I think it just comes down to semantics. It's not really that important. I think the Ace point you're getting across is accurate.
Yeah, they're there. They're included. I mean, even a couple comments he makes, the Shannon makes, which he does a great job in. I know John, he's a favorite of yours. But I mean, he does it. He's a good bad guy. But some of the comments he makes, I mean, he's just a disgusting person, and he makes that come across so well. But some of the things that he even like says to belittle Octavia Spencer's, like, you don't understand. You don't understand. Let me talk to, let me say that a little bit different way for you to understand. Stuff like that. It's like, oh, you jerk.
Yeah, it's interesting because Guillermo wears his heart on his sleeve in this movie, right? It's like very obvious what he's doing, right? He's taking the 19 late 1950s, early 1960s heroic character, the square-jawed white man with, all the power and success and able to solve problems, and flipping that to make him the villain of the movie, right?
Yeah.
And the fish man, who at the time in the movies would have been, or was, Creature from the Black Lagoon, was the horror aspect of it, was the villain, was the thing that was doing, was terrorizing the locals and stuff like that, and making that be the protagonist to some degree. Not really the protagonist, but at least the I guess the subject matter, but also the positive influence on the movie. So like it's very obvious what he's doing. Then you're just talking about execution after that point. Like there's no twists and turns. There's not really a whole lot of surprises per se in the plot itself, but it's kind of fun to go through it. I guess it's interesting to go through it, to kind of watch these people struggle and then succeed to some degree. Even despite their the failures and the things that are put against them.
Well, even look at, we haven't even brought up the Russian guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he even felt like, he was, a spy or whatever, but he even felt like he was caught between two worlds. And so he feels like everybody kind of was caught between two worlds in a way,
Well, yeah, even Shannon's character, who was the villain, wasn't entirely one-dimensional. Like they managed to make him absolutely despicable as a person, especially how he treats other people. But also you could kind of see his struggle. Now, is his struggle important to the movie? Not really, because it's kind of like a self-imposed, like I should be doing better, I should get more respect type struggle. But it's still not just straight black and white, which is kind of interesting.
I thought it gave perspective on him a little bit more depth to him. I'm kind of glad they did that.
Mm-hmm.
It shows you, well, in some ways it shows you like how much more despicable he is than, even what you're seeing at work. I mean, the way he treats his family, things like that, his wife. I mean, it just kind of gives you perspective that he's not just this person at work. He is this person all the time.
They did write for him.
Maybe he tries to hide it.
Yeah, they did write for him a great final line.
Remind me of that, because I literally just got done watching this 10 minutes ago, but I can't remember what that is.
Where right before the fish guy kills him, he goes, "Oh, you are a god." Well, not but yeah.
Oh, that one. Okay.
Great final line. Great delivery. Just yeah.
I really appreciated it. And before we get out of the cast stuff, I just want to say that I was really excited to see David Hewlett in there as well. So
I'm glad I'm not the only one, man. I didn't recognize him for a little while.
Well, it's just the same thing as Cabin in the Woods. I didn't recognize him in that for a long time. But he's fantastic. Yeah. So
he is really great. He's an underrated. Is that the way to put it? Underrated actor.
But again, I mean, he didn't have much screen time. But just to speak to the writing, that all of these characters, like you said, none of them felt super one dimensional. Like all of them had some kind of nuance to them. Even what was his name? His character's name was Fleming, I want to say. Let me check.
Yes, it was actually.
Yeah, Fleming. So he had like almost no screen time, but just I don't know if that's just acting or just the writing, but I don't know. Every character felt important, no matter how little screen time they had. They all felt like they contributed to a living, breathing world that everyone else was a part of.
So
yeah, I think it's reminiscent for me of like a play, in the sense that every actor, even if it's a bit role, is still handled with care.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
One of the things I really wanted to point out when we were talking about, because anyway, we always talk about the actors, because that's just one thing that just is great about movies. Doug Jones, man, you don't get to see him. You don't get to see him behind the suit very often, but he's so underrated. I mean, he's in Star Trek Discovery, as is basically covered also in that movie, or in that TV show. And I just wanted to point out,
Hellboy too.
He was in Hellboy. He's in Pan's Labyrinth. He's Pan.
Oh yeah, that's right.
He's so underrated, and yet he's such a good actor, man. I mean, the way that he can emote under all of that garbage that he is under. I mean, he has a crazy, filmography, dude. Hocus Pocus, Tank Girl. I mean, Mystery Men. I mean,
he was in Mystery Men?
Yes, he was.
What was he in Mystery Men?
Pencilhead.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, man. But yeah, no, he did. He does. I don't know. Black? He's like Gary. He's like the Gary Oldman of costumed acting, I guess, is what you could call this.
Dude, he was the Silver Surfer.
I think I blocked that movie out.
I think a lot of people blocked the Fantastic Four movies.
So wait, random question: who's a better creature actor, him or Andy Serkis?
Oh, I would say Doug Jones. I think Andy Serkis is good, dude, but I don't think he has the range of Doug Jones.
Look, I love Andy Serkis. I think
he feels really like Andy Serkis,
normal actor, and I think he's a really good. Andy Serkis does really good like virtual actors. I mean, he really does good. But Doug Jones, man, he is. I think he's the prime. I think he's definitely he's so good.
Yep. So I go with Doug Jones as well.
I honestly would too, man. With Andy Serkis just barely trailing behind, but still. Don't make me make choices like that, Crit. Oh, that one's a tough one. But I do enjoy both of those actors very much and stuff. But anyways, he doesn't get highlighted as much as he should, and he's in so many things that people don't know that he's in because he is being hid behind prosthetics in a lot of movies. Like in Men in Black he wasn't, and in but in Hellboy, in both of them he was. Hocus Pocus he wasn't. He was the dead kid in there. If you guys have seen it, I've seen it a million times because of my family. But anyways, you see him every once in a while, him and himself, but in the flesh. But it's not very often. But yet he still, no matter what he's playing, he still does a terrific job at bringing out the character through actions. I mean, he had no speaking parts in this one. It was all emoting. It was all just acting, and yet he did a fantastic job at getting across what he was trying to do. Even though it was animal sounds. Mm-hmm. Anyways, but yeah, he's definitely one of my. I can't pick a favorite. Everybody was just so freaking good. The guy who plays the next door neighbor, oh man, he was so good as well.
That's Richard Jenkins.
Richard Jenkins, and I always forget his name, but every time I see him, I go, I like him a lot.
Well, he's always just he's a side character in most everything he's in, which is fine. I think we need side characters, and we need people that do well in their roles as side characters. But so.
And yeah, he's been in so many good ones too.
But speaking of him, if we can use him to segue into the ending, because he's the one that kind of gives that, isn't he? He's the one that gives kind of the voiceover at the end, right?
The opening, yes.
And the opening, yeah. So at the ending with him giving the voiceover and stuff. So how much do you think the last scenes where, the
her
amphibian ma'am. Yeah, becomes the gills and all that jazz. How much of that do you think is just wishful thinking on Richard's character versus and just being illustrated by Guillermo del Toro, or how much of that is actual real supposed to be real life? Like I think it kind of left it for you to decide. Like, okay, did this really happen, or is this just his character being wishful about a happy.
Okay, I have a take on that. I can tell you what I thought and I felt at the end. Whether it's really what Guillermo del Toro intended, I don't know. But again, we've talked about like Crit's always brought up sometimes some of the best directors leave it out there for you to decide on your own. So here's I think that's what you said
anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
I agree. I agree with my past self through Josh. Yes.
The intent that I got was that really was happening, but that we were seeing it for real. We were seeing really what was going on from our from that perspective. But we were hearing in the voiceover from his perspective that he hoped that things were going to go well. He didn't know, but we were seeing that it was. We were seeing that she was going to be happy. We saw the gills, come out, and her, which I actually had thought about earlier with her being found next to water. They said that might be something that unfolds in the end. So I wasn't completely surprised. I thought it was awesome though that it did happen, but I wasn't completely surprised. But anyways, I actually do believe that it did happen. I just think that we were hearing the voiceover from his perspective of not knowing how it played out, though we do know. So if you guys take it from a different perspective, I'd love to hear it.
Well, the camera's always omniscient in this movie. So like it's everywhere, and it's third person from that aspect. So doubting the camera is interesting because then you'd have to doubt the whole movie, which is possible because it is told like a fairy tale or like a, kind of a modern fairy tale.
Yeah.
And so like in that case, I think it's not important to the movie that the ending be canonical. I think it's more important to the movie that the themes are kind of held together at the end. That it kind of this, love triumphs overall kind of idea is something that is espoused because it's, again, that's kind of what makes it fairy tale, is that it has a happy ending to some degree.
Yeah, I can follow that and get behind that. It was an interesting thought because the way they framed it and like you said, I mean, framing it as a fairy tale. I don't think Pan's Labyrinth did some of this. It's been a long time since I've seen Pan's Labyrinth, but how they frame real life to where what's happening in fantasy and is fantasy actually real. Where they put a little doubt with the camera. I don't think they did the same thing in this. Like you said, I don't think they put doubt on the camera like they did with Pan's Labyrinth.
I sure hope we get Pan's Labyrinth on here, by the way, one of these days.
I've
tried twice, actually, myself.
I think, is this our first Del Toro movie?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
I think it is.
Wait, no, did we do Pacific Rim?
We didn't.
No, we didn't.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was on someone's choices, but we didn't.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think it's come up a few times, but no, it hasn't been. And anyways,
Yeah.
I have tried to get Pan's Labyrinth on here twice because it is absolutely one of my favorites and stuff.
Cool.
Oh, I just let somebody know a partial what I think. Anyway, what were we talking about?
I think we wrapped up the ending.
I wanted, what you were talking about, the ending. Yeah, there's another part in this movie that I just kind of thought was kind of interesting. If you guys want to talk about that,
okay.
It kind of stood out as kind of unique in the way that, I don't know if in the way that some people, I've seen other movies do this, but I thought the ending, or not towards the end where they're sitting at the table. If you guys remember this, and he's sitting there eating eggs. And she all of a sudden starts to try to tell him in sign language that she doesn't know what she'd do without him, that she loves him. And then I kind of love this is one of the things that kind of pulled me in a little bit. I love this overall theme of her tap dancing and them watching musicals and things like that. And then at the towards that, and where they're sitting at the table, they go into, all of a sudden you get to hear her voice internally, and you see her break into song and dance in that musical. And I know that musicals aren't everybody's cup of tea, but I just thought that was a really unique segment after they had been watching it on TV and enjoying that, and that little tap dance scene they had when they were sitting on the couch with each other. And anyways, I just thought that was quite unique. And I really liked it. It kind of, I love how how she got to demonstrate in her own mind, in her own way, a way that she could tell him that he loved her, even though maybe he wasn't totally understanding. He knew she loved him. He knew, without a doubt. But she wanted to say so much more and almost didn't know how to. And that was her way of kind of saying it within her own mind. how she wanted to get it across to him in a fantastic way. Anyways, that was I think if I had to pick a there was a few scenes in this movie that I really thought was good, and that's probably one of them. Is definitely one of my favorite scenes. And I, again, along with the end, actually, I really did like that end. Even though I saw the ending coming, I still liked it a lot. And when it was satisfying, I guess, to me.
Yeah, I like that it wasn't like a twist ending just to throw the audience off. It went where you were expecting it to go for the most part.
Well, I think that speaks to the fairy tale aspect of
Mm-hmm.
his stuff, because like fairy tales don't try to be M. Night Shyamalan with a twist at the end. It's like, no, this is a fairy tale, and you should see some things coming, especially if you're familiar with fairy tales.
Yeah, I think with this movie and probably a lot of Del Toro's, it's the recontextualization that's the twist, instead of having the default choices in characters and what they do be represented. It's having something else in the original in the fairy tale be the thing that that is evil or good, kind of either opposite or slightly different than that. But the actual story itself doesn't have a twist in it, which is kind of interesting. And I think I like that approach better, like just on the regular.
No, I agree with you. I don't feel like there always needs to be twists and turns and so like that. You always want to have something to look forward to. You want to have something that's that's fun. I mean, I keep talking about a lot of the other aspects of this movie, but there was action in this movie. Fantasy, science fiction. I mean, and what's funny is, there's those things, and everybody who listens to podcasts and you guys know, I love that. I love science fiction, and I love those things. Those are movies that draw me, but that's not necessarily what drew me to this movie, which is not the first thing, to be honest with you. Everything else that I've talked about in this movie and kind of gushed about this movie is what has drawn me into this movie, with the backdrop of science fiction or fantasy, which is awesome, actually. But that's, in my opinion, that's some of the best science fiction or fantasy out there. Is that it's some of the best stuff out there, like in Star Trek and things like that, have these science fiction backdrops, but they have these wonderful stories. And one of the best things about science fiction is that they have wonderful stories or wonderful points they're trying to get across through the story, and they're just using it as a mechanism to tell those things. And I think I think we've called it, high science fiction or fantasy or whatever, just in the sense of, there's more of I don't know the right terminology for this kind, but anyways, it's just that they're telling more than what's, immediately shown there or being, shown or told.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I liked about this a lot. So anyways.
All right.
Ratings? Anybody else have any things? Yeah, I got done with my notes. Let's go to ratings. I'll go first if you guys want me to. I put this at a 9 out of 10 boiled eggs. I rarely give more than an 8. And I don't know if I would buy this movie, but I definitely enjoyed it enough to recommend it with a 9 out of 10.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I'd watch this with my mom. I think she'd enjoy it if she hasn't already seen it.
Even with all the nudity?
Yeah, even with all the nudity. I don't know how she'd feel about that.
I wouldn't think the nudity would be the
and the really odd, the really weird sex scene. Yeah, that was interesting. With the whole water flowing out of the door as symbolism. Yeah, it was really weird. So maybe I wouldn't watch it with her, but I would let her watch it. How's that?
Oh, okay. Let her watch it as if she can't.
As if she can't make decisions on her own.
Yeah.
Mom, go watch this. I wouldn't want to be in the same room, though. Yeah. Let me know what you think. Oh, my goodness.
All right.
That's awesome, John. Crit, cool. What do you think, bud?
I gave it an 8 out of 10. I don't think it's my favorite Del Toro movie that he's made, but I do like it. And I think, like you said, like I wouldn't necessarily go and just be like, hey, I think I feel like watching The Shape of Water again. It's not that type of movie, but I feel better having watched it. And I've watched it twice now, so that was interesting, but especially on the second watch. But it wasn't like, it's not an extremely deep movie. It's just really kind of interesting when you go through it.
Yeah. And there's other Del Toro movies I can watch, and I have watched multiple times over again.
Pacific Rim. But I love Pacific Rim so much.
I actually do too.
Spoilers.
Yeah. If we ever get on here, Pan's Labyrinth. Yeah, if we ever get it on here. All right, let's go to
Hellboy 2.
Yeah, no.
No, I'll fight you on that one. I like Hellboy 2. Yeah, I'm with Josh on this one.
All right.
Wow, you're with one.
That one I could go back to. Like, unlike this movie, that one I could just like plop on in the background while I'm working on something, and it's just the visuals are awesome.
I like both.
I can see that.
The movie's great. Just the imagination in it is just really enjoyable.
True that, Crit. True that. Wow, I feel so special that you're with me on one of these fantasy ones. All right.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right, let's go to next week's picks. Let's remind everybody what our next genre is. The next genre that we have coming up was Crit's pick, and it was the genre of character studies. And tonight, I have the honor of giving the three choices for John and Crit to pick from. Are you ready, gentlemen?
Ready.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm getting better at this announcing thing. And so,
anyway, we'll see.
We'll see. It's coming out of my mouth a little bit better. Anyways, number one, guys. All right. This movie is a tough one on the mind. Number two, this movie is a tough one to throw. And number three, this movie is a tough one to crack. So we have this movie is a tough one on the mind for number one. Number two is this movie is a tough one to throw. And number three is this one is a tough one to crack.
I think I know what number one is.
Yeah, I think, but I kind of like number one, I think.
Okay. If it is the one, I'm pretty sure you do like it. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's go with number one.
All right. We're going with number one.
All right. So I picked two of the three movies I had not seen before. I was hoping that you'd get at least one of them, and you did actually. Number two, this movie is a tough one to throw. The Wrestler.
Okay.
Which I'd never seen that one. All right. Number three is this movie is a tough one to crack. What do you guys think it is?
Oh, I didn't know what three was.
I have no idea that was.
Yeah.
Okay. That one's Unbreakable. And stuff.
Okay. Is that a character study? Yeah, that's interesting.
It is in two lists of character studies.
Okay, fine.
People listed it, Crit. People listed it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying. It just caught me off guard because I don't think of Unbreakable as a character study. All right, cool.
Okay, and then the number one. This movie is a tough one on the mind. What do you guys think it is?
I was thinking A Beautiful Mind, but
yeah, same.
Yeah,
Black Swan.
Black Swan. Okay.
Totally off.
Which I have never seen before. I have never seen this one before.
All right.
I almost picked Beautiful Mind is one that I did.
Is this what you thought it was, Crit?
What?
You thought it was Beautiful Mind too, right?
I did. Yeah, I did. Yeah. That's why I thought
way to throw us, Josh.
I'm glad and stuff. I've heard lots of good and lots of bad. I want to pick for myself. So,
that's fair.
Again, I haven't seen this, so I'm actually kind of excited to hear to be able to report what you guys have what I have to say to you guys, because it sounds like both of you have seen this one.
No, I have not seen this one.
Really? You have? Okay.
I've seen it.
Well, at least two of us will be virgins to this. All right.
I think this is going to be a very interesting discussion.
I picked it. That's one of the reasons I did pick it, because I heard it's very interesting. Though I actually have no idea the full idea or the concept fully of what's going on in this movie. I just know bits and pieces of it. So, anyways, I think it's going to be an interesting movie to talk about. So, all right. I guess we're good to go. Black Swan it is next time, guys. And to everybody out there listening, thank you for supporting our channel. We really appreciate everybody that's been starting to come to our channel and hear our podcast along with other content that we have on this channel. And if you like what you see, please click the like button and comment on it. Let us know if there's anything you like or dislike. And as always, may you be excellent to each other and live long and prosper from all of us here at Josh's House of Nerds. Have a good night.
Thanks for